In the middle of tremendous darkness and personal tragedy, false lights are trying to guide us, and they can bring shipwreck. We must be focused on God's pathways and His light in the storms of life. Christ is the light of navigation. Hello, and welcome to the Light of Navigation and this Reflections podcast. My name is Marguerite Lever-Woodall, and I'm an author, speaker, and your host. In these podcasts, I'm exploring different life issues and their solutions through the lens of God's wisdom and His words. In this episode called The Gift of Pain, I'm exploring an often overlooked aspect of it. It seems to troop through our lives whenever it wants to. We'll avoid it for all we're worth. But then, have you thought about the possibility that we need it? Join me in giving thought on the tough issues of life, and let's discover God's pathways through them. For the moment, all discipline seems not to be pleasant, but painful. Yet those who've been trained by it, afterward it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. Hebrews 12, verse 9 through 11. None of us want pain, physical or emotional. But in this fallen world, sometimes it's the only event that shakes us out of the grasp of the darkness that tries to creep up on us or is holding us captive. Ironically, pain is the one thing that lets us know we're alive. Someone with leprosy is a classic example. The disease leads to a gradual loss of physical sensation in various parts of the body. Nerve endings die, and that's a problem. Physical pain is no longer felt when injured. As a result, without physical pain, injuries go unnoticed. What follows is an infection or tissue damage that causes the body part to die, then eventually rotting and falling off. This is a great analogy for the unspoken importance of pain. I think we've forgotten how valuable the gift of pain can be. For example, I've seen how parenting styles of discipline have really changed. The shift is substantial. Overall, there's parental reluctance to use corporal punishment. It's now viewed as abuse, and many are afraid to implement it with their children. Reasoning has become a tool rather than the discipline. We'll approach the child with adult reasoning first, and if that doesn't work, then the discipline follows. You cannot reason with small children. They haven't developed their reasoning skills yet, and they don't care to. Trying to talk things out with them instead of drawing a painful boundary with a good swat on their rear is fruitless. We've got it backwards. When corporal punishment comes first, along with a brief explanation of why, the physical pain involved helps develop a child's reasoning in the right direction. Certain behaviors are painful and unacceptable. A child will remember the pain, not our trying to reason with them. They'll do a brain dump on a lot of your rationalizing quite quickly. If discipline is neither swift nor given at all, you'll end up with an unruly child who subjects everyone around them to their selfish whims. Without the pain, the reasoning has no value for the child. They'll blow you off. It's been said that children are born liars. If you think about it, you don't have to teach them how to lie. You have to teach them how to be truthful. I am by no means justifying forms of discipline that cross the line into abuse. Wise and balanced corporal punishment is not abuse. While thinking about these issues recently, I woke up one morning with the Lord clearly speaking this to me. They're afraid to give them the gift of pain. He repeated it several times as I rose out of bed for the day. The lack of parental discipline is usually rooted in fear or unintended negligence. The scriptures plainly tell us that a lack of discipline for our children is a lack of love. Why do we fear disciplining our kids? Are we afraid they'll think we don't love them when we bring the pain to bear? Do we believe it will drive them away? Are we concerned about possible resentment? Pain is not the enemy we perceive it to be. It's not just about corporal punishment, but also about the need for discipline. The discipline that keeps us from developing life-destroying or evil habits. Habits that can lead to laziness and dishonesty, not to mention a few. The pain of discipline is meant to shape us into responsible adults. Without it, we can fall into the category of acting and living like fools. Living foolishly can be costly to ourselves and others, and even life-threatening. One of the most hilarious and accurate book passages I've ever read speaks to the subject of those with foolish hearts. Great advice was listed on how to confront them for their own good. Sometimes a fool needs the gift of pain. That gift can take many forms in various circumstances. One example can be a loving, spirit-led, powerful heart shot. A heart shot of truth that the foolishness cannot stand against. But note this, it can be guerrilla warfare. Some will charge you like a bull in their emotional rage when confronted with the truth. Plan to hide behind a bush or tree after you take that heart shot. The goal is to snap them out of the idiotic, unreasonable direction they're headed in. Great care and prayer are needed with this approach, of course, and it must be undergirded with love. Years ago, when my father began a verbal attack about a perceived failure on my part, God's Spirit stepped in and gave me one of those heart shots. My dad was well known for an arrogant pride in his intellect and knowledge. It was an abusive weapon that he used frequently. Everyone else was stupid, of course, except himself. He was a know-it-all. As I stood there, I quietly prayed for God to give me a heart shot. A heart shot that would pierce through my father's arrogant attitude. Suddenly it came to me, and I responded and replied, "Dad, you've handed me your facts and knowledge all my life, but you've never once shared your heart with me as your daughter." The wall of his foolish, hardened heart cracked. That was the first time I'd ever seen my father at a loss for words, and it was golden. His jaw hit the ground, and there was no response. I walked away. From that point onward, a slow turnaround began in his life and in his relationship with me. The heart shot was painful, but needful for his sake, and it produced long-term results. God never leaves us, but I believe He sometimes lets us face the painful results of our choices to teach us discipline. If the resulting pain and shame are deep, those consequences are never forgotten, and hopefully, the bad behavior not repeated. And that's the goal of the gift. It humbles us. A lack of discipline despises authority. If we don't respect authority, we won't have wisdom or instruction. God certainly doesn't want us to take him lightly. He will give us the gift of pain, if necessary, because he loves us. It's a teacher that we both hate yet need because of the fruit it can produce in our lives. Of course, God is also at the end of it all, picking us up, comforting, and encouraging us to move forward in life. Pain can redirect us to the right or wrong pathway and purpose. Addiction is a flight from pain, and we all know how that can turn out. The scriptures often speak of pain's gift. The pain of tribulation refines and purifies us. The testing pain reveals our weaknesses, fostering a need for reliance on God. The pain of adversity gets our attention, especially if we've been distracted by ungodly things, which then leads to growth spiritually. And sometimes God warns us to avoid pain, but if we ignore it, it will become our teacher. Did you know that pain can also release our giftings from God? In my deepest agony from great loss, I was stirred to take the many journal entries over my lifetime and author a book of hope in the living God and a testimony to his goodness, and this podcast as well. In my wildest dreams, I never saw that coming. The pain brought forward the gift of writing and speaking that glorifies him. As I close here, I want to share a passage from Hannah Hernard's book, Hind's Feet in High Places. It is timeless and quite accurate spiritually. The fictional character in it, named Much Afraid, is on a journey to the high places, or the kingdom of God. As she starts this journey, Christ assigns 2 companions to go with her. 2 companions that horrified her, and she did not expect. As he did this, he spoke to her and said, "Fear not, Much Afraid, only believe. I promise that you shall not be put to shame. Go with sorrow and suffering. And if you cannot welcome them now, when you come to the difficult places where you cannot manage alone, put your hands in theirs confidently, and they will take you exactly where I want you to go." Thank you so much for listening today. There's good news. There's no pain in heaven, and I'm looking forward to that. If this podcast would shed some light on a difficult subject, please pass it on. Your comments are valued, and subscribing is also deeply appreciated. Stay tuned for the next episode of Reflections. You never know what God will highlight for an in-depth discovery.